Umuoka, war has come. Yele, 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 yele. Umuoka, war has come. Why fighting each other when the enemies are the fence? Umuoka, Umuoka. Why fighting each other when the enemies are the door? Why the rancor? Why the hatred? Arise, Umuoka, arise, Umuoka. Open your eyes, Umuoka. Why the quarrel? Why the rancor? Umuoka, war is coming on. Yele, 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 yele. Umuoka, war has come. Yele, 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 yele. Umuoka, war has come. Before the fence, before the farm, before the billionaire came back to town, there was a promise made in secret between a desperate king and a dying priest's father. A promise that will one day pit a poor boy who became rich against a boy who became a priest, both fighting for the same woman and both willing to burn a village to the ground to keep her. This is the story of Umuoka, a village that survived one war, almost to destroy itself with love, pride, and old promises. In the village of Umuoka, peace was something people prayed for every night because trouble was something that visited too often. The village sat quietly beside a large forest, blessed with good land, strong rivers, and hard-working people. But not far away, across the hills, lived a bigger, more powerful village, Obaru. And Obaru had always wanted what Umuoka had. For years, there had been small clashes, land disputes, stolen cattle, angry words exchanged during meetings. But everyone knew deep down that one day it will become something bigger. Something the elders will not be able to settle with kola nut and palm wine alone. That day came faster than anyone expected. Word spread through the village like wildfire. Obaru was preparing for war. I mean real war. Not the kind with angry words, but the kind with machetes, guns and fire. King Obiano, the ruler of Umuoka, sat on his throne with a heavy heart. He had led his people through many storms, but this one felt different too. This one felt it could swallow everything he had built. What can I do? He asked his council one evening, his voice tired. We do not have soldiers like Obaru. We do not have weapons like Obaru. If they come, what will save us? Nobody had an answer until the old priest, a man everyone simply called Dibianwato, stepped forward. Your Highness, he said, his voice steady despite his old age, I can protect this land. I have powers passed down from my ancestors, powers that can build walls no enemy can break, walls no human eye can see. But such power always demands a price. The king leaned forward. Name it. Dibianwato looked around the room slowly, then spoke words that will shape the future of two families forever. My son will one day take over from me as chief priest. When that day comes, let your daughter Adaeze marry him. Let our bloodlines join, so this protection remains strong for generations. The room went silent. The king, desperate and afraid of his people, did not think twice. Agreed, he said. If you save my people, my daughter will marry your son. Nobody asked Adaeze what she thought. She was just a little girl then, playing with her friends outside the palace, unaware that her future had just been decided without her. That night, Dibianwatu performed rituals that shook the very ground of Umuoka. Chants filled the air till morning, and when the sun rose, something visible but powerful settled over the village like a blanket. Ogbaru warriors, when they finally marched toward Umuoka weeks later, mysteriously turned back before even reaching the border. Some said they saw strange lights in the forest. Others said their legs simply refused to move forward. Whatever it was, Umuoka was saved, and for years, peace remained. But peace, like everything else, has a season. Years later, Adaeze had grown into a beautiful, strong-willed young woman, the pride of King Obiano's palace. She was smart, she was kind, but she also had a mind of her own, something rare for a king's daughter in those days. She had fallen in love, not with a prince, not with a warrior, but with a poor young man named Kelechi. Kelechi had nothing, no land, no title, no wealth, just a burning determination and a heart full of love for Adaeze. They met by the riverside, where Adaeze often escaped to find peace away from the palace duties. Kelechi worked there, fetching water and doing small jobs to survive. Their love grew quietly, secretly, like a seed planted in fertile but forbidden soil. One day, Kelechi promised her one evening as the sun set behind the hills, "I will become someone. I will come back for you, Adaeze, not as a poor man, but as someone your father cannot refuse." Adaeze smiled, though doubt lingered in her heart. Promises are easy to make, Kelechi. It's keeping them that is hard. "Then watch me," he said. "Watch me keep mine." Not long after, Kelechi left the village, chasing opportunities in the city, leaving behind a heartbroken Adaeze and a promise neither of them knew would take years to fulfill. Meanwhile, old Dibianwatu's health began to fail. His son Ekweme had trained under him since childhood, learning the secrets of their ancestors, the chants, the charms, the rituals that connected their family to powers beyond ordinary understanding. Ekweme was different from his father. Where Dibianwatu was calm and patient, Ekweme carried a quiet hunger and need to prove himself, to be respected the way his father was respected, maybe even more. He had grown up hearing whispers about the promise made between his father and the king. Somewhere along the way, that promise stopped feeling like an arrangement between two old men and started feeling like destiny. His destiny. He watched Adaeze from a distance for years, telling himself that one day, when the mantle passed to him, she would finally become his. He didn't know about Kelechi. He didn't know about the promise Adaeze's heart had already made long before his father even opened his mouth. Then, on a quiet Harmattan morning, Dibianwatu breathed his last. The village mourned for 7 days, drums beating softly, women wailing, elders pouring libations to honor a man who had protected them for decades. On the 8th day, Ekweme was crowned the new chief priest of Umuoka. That same evening, dressed in his father's ceremonial beads, for the first time, Ekweme walked confidently into the king's palace. "Your Highness," he said, bowing slightly, "I have come to remind you of the agreement between my late father and yourself. It is time. Adaeze must prepare to marry me." King Obiano's face darkened. He had hoped, foolishly perhaps, that time would erase the old promise, that Ekweme would forget or find someone else, or that fate would somehow intervene. But fate, it seemed, was not done testing Umuoka yet. "Ekweme," the king said slowly, choosing his words carefully, Your father saved this village, and for that, we are forever grateful. But my daughter's heart was never part of that bargain. I cannot force her into a marriage she does not want." Ikweme's eyes hardened. "With respect, my king, a promise is a promise. My father gave everything to protect this land. Are you now saying his sacrifice means nothing? That is not what I..." "Then honor it," Ikweme cut in, his voice low but firm, "or face the consequences of breaking sacred agreement." The king said nothing, but deep inside a storm was brewing, one that would soon pull his daughter, the young chief priest, and a certain returning stranger into a battle no one saw coming. Far away, in the noise and lights of the city, a black SUV pulled up outside a massive construction site. A well-dressed man stepped out, phone pressed in his ear, giving orders about a new project back in his own village. It was Kelechi, no longer poor, no longer powerless. He had kept his promise to himself. He had become someone, and now word has reached him that his home village, the home of the woman he never stopped loving, was standing on the edge of war. He ended the call, looked toward the horizon, and whispered to himself, "I am coming home, Adaeze, and this time, nothing will stand in my way." News travels fast in a small village, even faster when the news is about a poor boy who left with nothing and returned with everything. By the time Kelechi's convoy of cars drove through the dusty roads leading into Umuoka, half the village had already gathered by the roadside to see for themselves. Children ran alongside the cars, shouting his name. Women whispered among themselves, shaking their heads in disbelief. Is this not the same Kelechi that used to carry firewood for people? The same one that used to fetch water at the stream? See how the world turns so. Kelechi stepped out of the lit car, dressed simply despite his wealth. No unnecessary show, just quiet confidence. He greeted the elders first, bowing with respect before making his way to the palace to see King Obiano. The king received him with a mixture of surprise and caution. "Kelechi," the king said, studying him closely. "The boy who used to sneak around my palace grounds. Look at you now." "Your Highness," Kelechi replied respectfully, "I have not forgotten where I come from, and I have not forgotten the village raised me, even when I had nothing. And what brings you back now, after all these years?" Kelechi took a breath. "I heard about the trouble with Obaru. I heard the danger is real this time. I have resources, Your Highness, equipment, manpower. I want to help protect this land." The king studied him for a long moment. Behind Kelechi's confidence words, he could sense something else, something personal. But with Obaru's threats growing louder every day, the king was in no position to refuse help. "Very well," the king said finally. "If you can truly help us, Umuoka will be grateful." As Kelechi turned to leave the palace, he saw her. Adaeze stood by the corridor, frozen, staring at him like she was seeing a ghost. Neither of them spoke at first. Years of longing, heartbreak, and unanswered questions hung heavy in the silence between them. "Kelechi," she finally whispered. "Adaeze," he replied softly. "I told you I would come back." Her eyes glistened, but she quickly composed herself, aware of the palace guards watching. "A lot has changed since you left." "I know," he said, "but some things haven't. I am here now, and I meant every word I said by that riverside." Before she could respond, a palace attendant interrupted, calling her away for royal duties. She gave Kelechi one last look, torn between joy and fear of what was to come, before disappearing down the corridor. The next morning, Kelechi wasted no time. Trucks began arriving from the city, carrying heavy machines the villagers had only seen in movies, bulldozers, excavators, and rolls of thick metal wire. workers in uniform set up camp near the large swampy land at the edge of the village, land that had been useless for farming for as long as anyone could remember. "What is he building?" villagers whispered, gathering to watch. Within days, the swamp began to change. Bulldozers cleared out the thick waterlogged bush. Workers drained the water systematically, redirecting it into proper channels. What was once a mosquito-infested wasteland slowly transformed into flat, fertile land. Rice, Kelechi announced to a gathering crowd one evening. "We are going to turn this land into one of the biggest rice farms in this region. It will provide food. It will provide jobs. Nobody in Umuoka will go hungry again." The crowd erupted in cheers, but Kelechi wasn't done. "And to protect our people from Ogbaru," he continued, "we are building an electric fence around this side of the village, stretching over a kilometer, powered day and night. No enemy will cross into Umuoka without us knowing." The villagers hardly believed their ears. For the first time in months, hope replaced fear on their faces. Within weeks, the fence began to rise, tall metal poles connected by humming wires stretching almost 1.5 kilometers along the village border, fencing Ogbaru. Searchlights were mounted at intervals. Guards, trained and paid by Kelechi, patrolled day and night. The rice farm too began to flourish. Green shoots pushed through the once useless swamp. And for the first time, Umuoka people saw a future beyond fear of invasion. "This man is a blessing," elders began to say. "God has sent him back to us." "Forget Ogbaru," others said. "With this fence, they cannot touch us." Kelechi quickly became more than a returning son. He became a hero. But not everyone was celebrating. From the shadows of the shrine, Ikweme watched the transformation with a heavy, bitter heart. Every cheer for Kelechi felt like a slap to his own pride. Every praise sung about the fence and the farm felt like an insult to the powers his family had protected the village with for generations. "They have forgotten," he muttered to himself one night, staring into the fire burning in his shrine. "They have forgotten it was not machines that saved them before. It was us, my father, my blood." His assistant, a younger initiate named Obika, knelt quietly nearby. "Chief priest, the people are only happy because they feel safe. It doesn't mean they have forgotten your family's sacrifice." "Happy?" Ekweme scoffed. "They are happy because a rich man came and used metal and electricity to do what our ancestors used spiritual power to do. Tell me, Obika, what happens to respect for the old ways when the new ways seem to work just as well?" Obika said nothing, sensing the danger in his master's growing anger. Ekweme stood, walking toward the small shrine where his father's ceremonial staff rested. He picked it up slowly, feeling the weight of expectation pressing down on him. "I will not lose everything because of one rich boy," he said quietly. "Not my bride, not my respect, not my place in this village." His eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, the same eyes that years ago watched Adeze from a distance, dreaming of a future he believed belonged to him by right. "If machines and money think they can replace the gods," he whispered, "then perhaps it's time the gods remind this village who truly holds power here." Outside, the electric fence hummed steadily in the night, unaware of the storm quietly gathering against it. At first, it looked like bad luck. One of Kelechi's workers, a strong young man named Chidi, collapsed suddenly while fixing wires on the electric fence. No injury, no sickness before. He simply fell, foaming slightly at the mouth, mumbling words nobody could understand. "Heat exhaustion," the side doctor said after examining him. "He needs rest." But 3 days later, it happened again. A different worker, this time climbing down from a bulldozer, screamed suddenly that something was pulling his leg. Though nothing was there, he refused to return to work after that, packing his things and leaving the village entirely. Then came the strange dreams. Several workers reported the same nightmare. A tall figure standing at the edge of the swamp at night, staring at them silently before vanishing. Some said the figure carried a staff, others said it had no face at all. Whispers began spreading through the camp. This land is cursed. Someone doesn't want this farm to succeed. Maybe we should stop before something worse happens. Kelechi, though he did not believe in curses, could not ignore that pattern. Too many strange things happening too fast right after the fence and farm began to succeed. He called his site manager, a no-nonsense man named Emeka, into his office tent late one evening. Emeka, what is really going on with these workers? Emeka hesitated before answering. Sir, some of them believe the chief priest is behind this. They say he is not happy about the farm, about the fence, about the change happening in this village. Kelechi's jaw tightened. Ekwueme? Yes, sir. Kelechi said nothing for a long moment, staring out at the humming fence lights in the darkness. He didn't need spiritual powers to know jealousy when he saw it. And jealousy, when mixed with real power, could be dangerous. That same week, Adaeze noticed something troubling too. Her personal maid, a loyal girl named Ijeoma, had suddenly fallen ill, high fever, restless nights, mumbling incoherent words in her sleep. The palace healer could not explain it. Adaeze sat behind Ijeoma's bed, holding her hand gently. Ijeoma, talk to me. What happened before you fell sick? Ijeoma's eyes fluttered open weakly. I went to deliver a message to the shrine. Chief Priest Ekwueme was performing something I wasn't supposed to see. See what? Adaeze asked, alarmed. He was chanting over something that had Kelechi's name written on it. A chill ran down Adaeze's spine. She stood immediately. Anger and fear mixed inside her. She knew without further proof exactly what was happening. That evening, Adaeze made her way to the farm, determined to warn Kelechi herself. She found him standing near the fence, checking the wires, unaware of the secret danger closing in around him. But she wasn't the only one who had come. Ekwueme was already there, standing a few feet away, dressed in his ceremonial beads, his face calm but his eyes burning with quiet intensity.
War has come.
So, this is the thing everyone is talking about, Ekwueme said. That great fence, that great farm, that great savior. Ekwueme, Kelechi replied, turning to face him. I didn't know priests visit farm at night. I go where I need to go, just like you came where you were not called. Nobody called me. Kelechi shot back, a white edge in his voice. The whole village is eating because of this farm. The whole village sleeps well because of this fence. I don't remember forcing anybody. You didn't force the farm, Ekwueme said, stepping closer. You forced yourself into something that belongs to me. Kelechi let out a quiet laugh. Adaeze is not a farmland, Ekwueme. You cannot fence her in with an old promise she never agreed to. Careful how you speak, Ekwueme warned, his voice dropping lower. That promise was not just words. My father saved this village with it. Blood and power were exchanged, not just talk. Your father saved the village, Kelechi said firmly. Not you, and Adaeze's heart was never part of that payment. Silence hung between them. The wind picked up. You think because you have money now, you can just erase history? Ekwueme said, his voice tightening. I was poor when you were poor. Then you left. I stayed, I studied. I suffered to carry what my father left behind. And now, you want to just walk in and take everything? I didn't come back for a title, Ekwueme, Kelechi said. Softer now, but firm. I came back because I couldn't stop thinking about her. And when I heard this village was going to be attacked, I couldn't just sit in the city and watch from a distance while she suffered. Ekwueme's smile was bitter. Love. Everybody loves when it's convenient. Where was this love when you had nothing? Where was your money then? It wasn't about money then, Kelechi answered. It was about a promise I made to myself. that one day I will come back and stand for her with everything I have, and I did. Ikweme stepped closer. Still, his voice low and dangerous now. Let me tell you something, Kelechi. Fences can fall, machines can break, but what I carry, it does not break. Be careful you don't wake something you cannot put back to sleep. Is that a threat, Chief Priest? Take it however your heart wants to take it. At that moment, Adaeze appeared from behind the farm path. She had been listening. Both men turned to see her. Enough, she said. Both of you. She walked between them, her eyes moving from one to the other. Ekweme, I respect your father's memory. I respect what he did for this village. But I am not an object to be handed over because of an old agreement. I never agreed. Not then, not now. Hot flushed across Ekweme's face before he quickly hid it. Even the gods have spoken on this matter, Adaeze. Then let the gods come and tell me themselves, she replied. Not through fear, not through charms, not through threats in the dark. She turned to Kelechi, her voice softening slightly. And you, I didn't ask you to fight my battles for me either. I can stand for myself. I know, Kelechi said, but I wanted to stand with you. That's different. Ekweme watched this exchange. His jaw tight. He stepped back slowly. Very well, he said, his voice cold and final. Let the land decide who truly protects it. When the real test comes, we will see whose power holds, money or the gods. He turned and walked into the darkness, leaving Adaeze and Kelechi standing by the fence, the hum of electricity between them. He's not bluffing, Kelechi, Adaeze said quietly. I've seen what he can do. Kelechi took her hand. Then we will face it together, whatever it is. Unknown to both of them, their conversation was being watched. Ubika, Ekweme's young assistant, stood hidden behind a tree, not far away, having followed Adaeze earlier out of curiosity. He had heard everything, the confrontation, the warning, and now this quiet moment between the two lovers. Torn between loyalty to his master and growing doubt about Ekweme's action, Ubika slipped away quietly into the night, his mind heavy with a secret he wasn't sure he should keep. Back at the shrine, Ekweme sat alone before the fire, staring into the flames as he searched for answers only they could give. Chief Priest, Ubika said cautiously, entering the shrine. Speak, Ekweme replied without looking up. I followed the king's daughter tonight. I saw her with the billionaire at the farm. Ekweme's eyes finally lifted, sharp and attentive, and Ubika hesitated, choosing his next words carefully. Sir, are we doing the right thing? Attacking his workers, scaring the village. Is this truly what your father would have wanted? The fire crackled loudly in the silence that followed. My father, Ekweme finally said, his voice low, built his legacy through sacrifice and respect. I refuse to watch that legacy erased by a man with machines and money. But sir, what if... Enough, Ubika. Ekweme's voice hardened. You either stand with me or you stand aside. But do not question my path again. Ubika lowered his head, swallowing his doubts, though they lingered heavily in his heart. Meanwhile, far beyond the hills of Umuoka in the dark heart of Ogbaru village, drums of war had begun beating steadily. Their warriors sharpened weapons under torchlight. Their leaders studied maps of Umuoka's borders, carefully noting the new fence, the new farm, and the growing confidence of their rival village. They think metal wires can save them. Ogbaru's fierce war chief sneered. Examining the scouted map, let them enjoy their false peace a little longer. He turned to his warriors, his voice booming with dark promise. Prepare everything. When we strike, Umuoka will learn that no fence, no farm, and no god can stop what is coming for them. Under the cover of night, war preparations in Ogbaru intensified, unseen and unknown to the people of Umuoka, who were far too consumed by their own internal battle of love, pride and power to notice the true danger creeping steadily closer.
Umoga, war has come.
Why fighting each other when the enemies are the fence? Umoga. Why fighting each other when the enemies are the door? Why the rancor? Why the hatred? Arise, Umoga. Arise, Umoga. Open your eyes, Umoga. Why the quarrel? Why the rancor? Umoga. War is coming, oh. Yele, 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 yele.
Umoga, war has come.
Yele,